Hello everybody, welcome to Ludwig Lane Music. Thank you for watching my channel, and I like to apologize because Billy Joel month is taking a little bit longer. It should be Billy Joel quarter annually at this point. I have a job and I do this at night. I'm having a great time doing it, but it's a lot of work, but hey, I'm really enjoying what I do. But you gotta admit, isn't the anticipation worth it? Cue the comp. So for this week's selection, this is a song I've been wanting to do for a while. This is perhaps one of my top, I would say 2 songs in the Billy Joel catalog. And I would even say that this is my favorite Billy Joel song regarding the piano composition. And I'm glad that I get to do this now and show you kind of like what I really love to play on the piano. And it got me thinking, I don't know what comes about a person to write a song like this, a song this good. The lyrics and the music are in another playing field. In fact, they're in another league. It's like if everybody else was playing AAA ball, and then here you have Billy Joel playing the major leagues. And not only that, you bat like 1,000 and you just hit a grand slam. It's this song right here. And as we get down to the nitty-gritty of how this song was conceived and how Billy went about composing this song, you'll eventually find out that Billy had to go through some pretty unique circumstances to write this song. But we're going to cover that in a little bit. And whilst I was evaluating this song, it got me thinking. Billy could write something that is complex, and it seems as if it was made for an orchestra. And in contrast, he could write something that's a little bit more simple, but he could also make that simplicity sound jaw-droppingly gorgeous or just plain awesome. Each time I listen to this particular song, it leaves me with no words. It's that good. And I would say that this song is one of the most popular songs about the city known as New York City. For all I know, it might be second to Sinatra's theme from New York, New York. And as you probably caught on by now, it is Billy Joel's New York State of Mind from 1976's Turnstiles album.
Some folks like to get away, take a holiday from the neighborhood. Hop a flight to Miami Beach or to Hollywood.
So for the prior video, and I'll go ahead and list it up here somewhere, I mentioned that Billy moved to LA after he signed with Columbia Records. And he did this part and parcel to get away from his original record label, Family Records, and the people who ran it. So, for lack of a better term, yeah, he was on the lam. Crap, I would be too if I signed with Family Records. More like Broken Family Records. Because it could be a broken family or a broken record. So, Billy stayed in LA for about 3 years. And you could sum up his time there as he hated it. And you know what? LA is not for everyone. I'm a Californian, and when I think of LA, I think of traffic, I think of congestion, I think of pollution. You know, I mean, yeah, you have the beaches, you have Hollywood, you have Universal Studios, you have Magic Mountain, you have all that great stuff. But, I mean, to get where you want to go, you're lucky if you're not taking like 3 hours to get there. I mean, I can't blame a New York guy like Billy not liking LA. I completely understand. And you also got to understand, different strokes, right? And it got me thinking though, Why all this hate for LA? Well, besides being more than 3,000 miles away from New York City, New York and LA might as well be in separate countries. And I'm saying this in terms of different internal cultures. I'm not saying like different cultures, like different nationalities, but I'm talking about the different mindsets between New Yorkers and Los Angelinos. For example, LA has a huge car culture. In fact, all of California has a rite of passage for both girls and boys driving a car. Many kids younger than 16 before they get their licenses drive cars. In contrast, you have New Yorkers who, a lot of them rely on public transportation. And in California, when you suggest somebody take public transportation in cities not named San Francisco, people will think you're joking because public transportation is very unreliable here. And I dare anybody who just started a job to rely on public transportation in California and not get fired in the first month. Yeah, it's that bad. And to be fair, it's most West Coast cities. And over here we get fairer weather, we get more clear weather, the roads are nicer because of it, and that perpetuates the car culture here. So in my previous videos, I mentioned that Billy took a job at a piano bar off Wilshire Boulevard in LA. And I could imagine that he was late many times trying to get to his gigs, if he used public transportation, of course. And be aware, I'm making a generalization between New Yorkers and Los Angelinos, and this is by no means everybody who lives in either city. And this is a vast generalization, and I'm sorry in advance, but from what I heard and experienced, like New Yorkers are usually in a hurry to get to places, and I think that's why a lot of New Yorkers, they go ahead and go against the light when they're crossing traffic. Yeah, try doing that in Sepulveda Boulevard in Wilshire in LA and not get hit. So Billy probably got a lot of close calls in traffic. Anyways, Billy is 100% a New York guy. He really missed where he came from. He longed to go back to New York. And let me tell you something. Back then in the 70s, New York pride was real. And I understand that New Yorkers today, they have their pride and it's awesome. But back in the 70s, man, have you seen New York in pictures or movies back in the 70s? And I've seen it with old school New Yorkers. Let me tell you, I think half of that fierce 1970s pride exists for the mere fact that they survived 1970s New York. Seriously, when you're done with this video, go watch Serpico, go watch Saturday Night Fever, and look how much of a dump New York was. But I gotta give this to them. Back in the 70s, New York did have its charm, and they did have a unique culture. For example, you had the growing punk movement with the Ramones, the club CBGB's, Blondie, the Talking Heads. You had art galleries in the East Village. Renegade artists like Robert Mapplethorpe were in their prime. It was a really unique time in American history. So it's no wonder that people that were products of 1960s and 70s New York have this certain mystique and swagger about them. For example, Barbra Streisand, Larry David, Neil Diamond, of course Billy Joel, Jerry Seinfeld, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken. They all are products of New York back in that era. And that's pretty damn cool if you ask me. And I'm sorry, I digress again. But, sometimes when I get going on these tangents, I just keep talking and talking. But let me know if you like these tangents. As you guys already know, I like to make connections and I like to theorize a lot. So let me know in the comment section how you feel about that. Anyways, Billy was homesick living in LA. So he decided to move back to New York, especially to make albums. When he did decide to go back to New York, he sent his wife and his stepson Elizabeth and stepson Sean, and Billy was going to meet them there in a couple days, a couple weeks, whenever. And when he got to New York, he was to meet Elizabeth at his new place of residence called the Overlook. And yeah, I'm not talking about the Overlook Hotel. And from my research that I found out, the Overlook that Billy Joel stayed in was more like a bed and breakfast. So there Billy was on the bus. And I kid you not, the bus that Billy Joel took to New York to his new place of residence was called the Hudson River Line. Catching on now? So he had the Hudson River in his view going towards the town of Highland Falls, New York. And what does he decide to do? He pulls out a notepad, he pulls out a pen, and he just starts writing lyrics. You know, and it's a trip because a lot of songs are exaggerations of what artists went through. This particular song apparently was not an exaggeration. He was actually on the Greyhound's Hudson River line. The yearning to go home was there in his heart. He was writing straight from his heart. He was writing straight from his soul. So there he was, scribbling away in his notepad. He was on the Hudson River line, and he was very much in a New York state of mind. And you could feel that excitement when you're listening to that song. It's not only the nostalgia, it's not only the yearning, but it's the excitement of being home. And in the track, you could hear the raindrops falling against the train window. And when you listen to the track, you could picture a rainy twilight. You could picture the train going full speed with a beautiful view of the Hudson River. You're waiting to see your wife. You're ready to go home. It's kind of like looking at a beautiful impressionist painting. Okay, having said that, Billy took 15 minutes to write the lyrics. And he figured that when he got home, he'll write the piano part. Talk about a bout of inspiration. So more about the song. While Billy was scribbling in his notepad writing the lyrics for New York State of Mind, he was getting ready to meet Elizabeth, his wife. So he was in a race against the clock to get his song done ASAP because he didn't want to make a person like Elizabeth mad. If you watch any of my previous Billy Joel videos, you'll notice that Elizabeth Weber is a very important character in Billy Joel's early career. And she was Billy's agent and wife. And to be an agent of a superstar, especially back in the 70s when everything was male dominated, you had to have a lot of, you know what? And Elizabeth had that. So Elizabeth was a person that you did not want to make mad. So I could imagine Billy just writing. Oh, I gotta do this. I gotta do this before I get home. I gotta do this before I get to Elizabeth. I also mentioned in my previous videos Elizabeth's obvious influences on Billy's hits. And I can't help but wonder, but did Elizabeth Weber influence this song indirectly? I'm probably overthinking it. New York State of Mind is not in the Stranger album, surprise, surprise. Many of the songs that I chose are in the Stranger album. And this one, as I mentioned, is in the Turnstiles album. And the Turnstiles album was a very, very important milestone for Billy because, for one, he selected his band members. He handpicked each and every one of his band members, most of whom are still playing with him today. And he handpicked each of them for this particular album. And they ended up being the Billy Joel Band. And almost 50 years later, they're still playing with him. So Billy did a great job in selecting his musicians. Oh, and here's a bit more fun facts about Turnstiles. The album was originally produced by Chicago's producer. His name was James William Guercio. And Guercio had this pretty awesome recording studio located in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. It was called Caribou Ranch, which is named after a nearby ghost town. Damn, that sounds badass. Anyways, Guercio actually had a bunch of artists record at Caribou Ranch over the years. Artists like Amy Grant, Earth, Wind & Fire, who won him a Grammy for That's the Way of the World. And they also had the Beach Boys and, of course, Chicago record there. Anyways, Columbia Records hooked Billy up with Guercio, and Billy decided to give Caribou Ranch a shot. In fact, Guercio had Elton John's bassist and his drummer play in the Turnstile sessions. Well, the album should have been awesome, right? Well, nope. Billy hated the way the album was turning out, so he decided to record back home in Long Island and recruit his heist crew while doing so. It ended up being a win-win because Billy ended up with the album he wanted and Columbia got a platinum record. Well, I'll never forget a quote attributed to the great Prince Rogers Nelson for Wired magazine in 2004. And this is what he said: "True artists should be involved with every aspect of their work." And it's so true. Billy himself is a true artist through and through. He can't leave anything to chance. He can't leave his babies in the care of another man. He ultimately decided that if you have to do something right, you have to do it yourself. Well, I could imagine how producing his own album went, because when it was time to produce his next album, The Stranger, he flat out did not want to do it by himself. So he went through a journey to find the ultimate producer, which he found in Phil Ramone. Check out my Just the Way You Are video. I speak about the Billy Joel-Phil Ramone relationship. And it also goes to show that even though Billy had a great producer in James William Guercio, and he had pro musicians from the Elton John band, the end result really wasn't at all what Billy pictured. And you would think that Chicago's producer, who excels in recording piano a la Chicago's lead singer Robert Lamb, and musicians from the great Elton John's band. Oh, and even recording in the beautiful Rocky Mountains rather than New York. All those factors, which should have been a match made in heaven, ultimately didn't work out because that's not true Billy. Only Billy knew what Billy's sound should be. Researching this topic actually got me understanding that line from New York State of Mind. Been high on the Rockies under the evergreens? Yeah, nice touch, Billy. At least you brought a little memento from Colorado to the final product. And another thing that I noticed about Turnstiles is that Billy got more bolder in his musicianship and his singing. He became more confident in his singing. He started to hit higher notes more frequently, and he started experimenting with more jazzier chords. And speaking of jazziness and bluesiness, Billy actually wrote this song as a tribute to Ray Charles. He actually thought it would have been cool for Ray Charles to sing this song, and it makes total sense. I could totally hear Ray Charles's influence in New York State of Mind. Everything about this song is reminiscent to the great Ray Charles. And I love Ray Charles. He's a music all-star for sure. In fact, let's go to the piano and see what makes this song great. Alright, so New York State of Mind. I really like this song, bro. It really brings back good memories for every time I go to New York. It reminds me of the Hudson River Valley in Orange County, Westchester County. It also reminds me of a cafe in Manhattan. It's a lot of good memories in this song for me. Now it starts off kind of showy, like a jazz impromptu. It's kind of like a warm-up, like a musician just sits in the piano and starts tinkering in it. There's no meter. It just shows different chords and the different tonalities. It just sets the tone for what's to come, and that's what's cool about it. So in the beginning, it's very free, and he's playing chords that should clash, but they don't. Everything just works out. It's kind of like you're having a great day as a musician. Everything you're playing just sounds great. And just so you know, I'll try to control my dynamics. It's more difficult to do it on a keyboard than a piano. And then it has the little showy piece that comes up. Hold up, we gotta repeat that. What the? Okay, so this is what we just played. D minor 9th, and then E minor 7th, then F all the way. And to put it simply, you're just diatonically going up with the left hand while you are playing the chords on the right hand. And diatonic just means that we are sticking with the notes, only the notes in the current key, which is in C major. And then D minor 9th. Then F over G or G 11th, however you want to look at it. Now it gets you ready for the piano verse section, not the verse, but the piano verse section. And then the verse starts right here.
Been high in the Rockies, under the evergreens.
All right, so when you have the instrumental verse come in, you're in the key of C. So no flats, no sharps, but you do have borrowed chords. The next one's going to be a borrowed chord. But before we talk about that, I can't help but notice Billy's classical side popping out from this part of the song. It might be just me, but I do get this nocturne-esque, Chopin-esque, nocturne-like motion. And that motion is called barcarolle. Now you get where I'm coming from? Chopin used to do a lot of this in his nocturnes, this motion. His Opus 9 number 2 comes to mind. Notice that the motion on my left hand could be analogous to a boat's movement. So you have that barcarolle-like motion on the left hand that keeps that steady beat. And mind you, this is just a theory of mine, but my ears tell me that he did pay homage to those classical composers, particularly Chopin. So I find that very interesting, and it works so well here. It's kind of a bluesy verse, but with classical influence, and that marriage works so well in this song. Okay, the last thing I'm gonna mention about this song is the verse, the part where he sings, "Some folks like to hide away." We'll talk about what he does here. Hold on a second. I have a quick thought. Now, it doesn't happen much, so bear with me. Billy Joel has this awesome ability to play regular chords and make them sound jazzy depending on the progression. All he's playing are these chords, and the decisions that he makes with these chords, adding a sharp 9 or adding an augmented 5th, this gives the song its spice, in my opinion. And adding modal interchanges like chromatic medians, his chordal diction for what bass notes he's playing or what top notes he's playing, this just adds a little spice to the song. This separates a good songwriter with a legendary songwriter. Okay, what does he do? Let's dive in. So he starts off with C, and I'm just going to go ahead and just play kind of half notes and quarter notes just to keep some semblance of beat. So we start on C, then E. This E has a sharp ninth. Then A minor 7, and then G minor 7, followed by C, then F. Okay, this A 7th with an augmented 5th is what I'm talking about when I say spice. Then D minor. This part gives me chills. Then B flat 9. Love that chord. C. Then E dominant 7 with a sharp 9, B in the bass. Haha, chord choice and bass note choice matters. And then A minor 7, And then he just descends on the left hand. That's a C major 7, G in the bass, and then F major 7, C, E in the bass, and then our D9 chord. And then he has that Billy Joel fill again. Oh, it's like this. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. This song is just something special. It invokes images of beauty in music, beauty of the soul, beauty of the way something is created. So why did I have this song in the list to begin with? Well, first of all, the piano blows me away. The piano is mixed perfectly. It's not too bassy and it's not too trebly. The piano does not compete with Billy's voice. It was produced very well, and Billy's piano sounded incredible. You know, the mics were in perfect places. The preamp levels were just right. The EQ, oh man, really, really solid. And when you get away from all this technical gobbledygook, you have locked down in the track. You have that feeling of being homesick and that feeling of a homecoming as well. And that feeling stays with you for the whole song. New York State of Mind is filled with what I like to call soul with a capital S. It has heart, it has pain in it, it has suffering in it, but it also has relief. It has love in it. And that's why it's part of my top 5 Billy Joel songs. It's a song about Billy missing his old stomping grounds, and he yearns for them. So imagine if you, the viewer, went overseas or went across the country for a few years, how homesick you would get. And when you come back and you start to feel that nostalgia, you start to feel that sense of community. These are all very, very powerful feelings. And when real feelings come about, real art starts to take over. And you know what? And it's a shame that this song isn't as popular as it should be. I think it needs to be reevaluated for the sake of posterity. The younger generation needs to hear this song because it's a testament to the beauty of what makes the United States great. And I know I mentioned all those differences between West Coast and East Coast, but in reality, when you get down to the nitty-gritty, we do share a lot of the values of diversity, we share unity, we share fear of uncertainty, fear of the future, love of community, and we also share this sense of opportunity and drive if you so choose to go after them. You know, this song is really about embracing where you come from, embracing home, embracing your drive, your ambitions, and these are all tenets of what makes this country great. Because when I listen to this song, I think of Americana. I think of Norman Rockwell. I think of the Statue of Liberty. I think of hot dogs. I think of apple pie. And when I think of those things, I also think of New York State of Mind. You know, maybe I'm reading too deep on these things, but this song really does put me in an emotional spot. New York State of Mind is a song about returning to familiarity, about returning to your creature comforts. It is a well-crafted song with undeniable charm in the music and the lyrics. And I equate it to coming back home after a stint in college. You could kind of say that Billy Joel left New York to Los Angeles, and you could equate that to a stint in college. And after a few years there, he finally comes back a better musician and maybe even a better person. And I also have a feeling that this song is about coming home in a new season in one's life. For example, Billy's coming back from LA. He experienced success. He has money now. He has newfound pride, newfound confidence, and now he could experience New York as a successful man. So in a way, this song is about mixing the old with the new. So there you have it, folks. My review of Billy Joel's New York State of Mind. I hoped you all liked it. I worked pretty hard in this video. So if you all could do me a favor and like, comment, and subscribe, and even share, I'd appreciate it a ton. Yeah, it's kind of hard getting your stuff out there, especially when you start out. But no matter, I love making these videos and I love performing, so I'm going to keep doing it. And I'll leave it at this. Thank you for watching. I'm Gary Castro. Thank you for tuning in to Ludwig Lane Music. I'll see you next time.